Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Rogers TV. Tonight we bring you the local campaign with the 5 candidates running in the St. John's Ward 4 by-election. I'm Erin Sully. I'll be your moderator for the evening. Now, you can watch us here on Channel 9. You can also stream us live on our website. Visit rogerstv.com. And this is also being shown on our Rogers TV YouTube page. Now, nominations to run for Ward 4 in the City of St. John's close on January 19th. Over the course of this debate, you're going to hear the opinions and ideas from the 5 candidates who have been finalized. Joining us in studio tonight is Sheila O'Leary. We also have Matthew White, Jill Bruce, Janet Kovich, and Debbie Hanlon, who are running for the vacant council seat that was left open when former councillor Bernard Davis was elected as the MHA for Virginia Waters Pleasantville last fall in the 2015 provincial election. Now, the final voting day is February 23rd, where you can place your vote up until 8 p.m. that evening at St. David's Presbyterian Church Hall, which is located at 98 Elizabeth Avenue. The city says the election results will be released at City Hall on the city's website after 8 p.m. on February 23rd. And for more information on voting in Ward 4, you can visit the city's website at stjohns.ca. Now, before we get started, I do want to tell you about the format of the show. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening introduction. There are a series of 5 questions that will be asked regarding a number of issues pertaining to the city as well as the ward. Each candidate will be asked one of the 5 questions where they will have 1 minute to answer. Then the other remaining candidates will have 1 minute each to rebuttal. And after that, there will be a 2 minutes left opened at the end, which will be opened up to all of the candidates to challenge each other and comment on each other's opinions on that particular topic. Now, of course, I will step in if too many candidates are talking at the same time. Now, once all 5 questions have been asked and answered, the candidates will then have 1 minute for closing statements, which will be in the reverse order of the opening statements. A random draw was done just a few minutes ago, and we're actually going to start now with the opening statements, and we're going to begin with Ms. O'Leary. Ms. O'Leary, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Sheila O'Leary, and I'm honored to put myself forward as a Ward 4 candidate in the City of St. John's by-election. Born and raised in St. John's, in Ward 4, in the Churchill Square area, I have over 25 years of experience in advocacy in the non-for-profit sector. I'm a small business owner and also a former city councillor from the years 2009 to 2013. I've been very proactive on council, have proven my worth as a committed, responsive, and experienced councillor. And it is this experience that certainly has fostered my interest in going back to City Council and representing the needs of you, the public, in living in Ward 4. I also come not as a constituent, just as a constituency interest, but also I'm very interested in larger scale visioning for the City of St. John's. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. O'Leary. And Mr. White, this is now your chance. 1 minute for your opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt White. I'm running for Ward 4 City Council, and I'm very proud to have been given the opportunity. I put my name forward because I am a 30-year-old man with business experience and leadership skills. I'm a young family-oriented individual. My wife, Deanne, and my 2 small kids are at home watching this evening. I very much enjoy what Ward 4 has to offer. I live here in Kenmount Terrace, and I do want to add more services for the area. I believe in 3 solid principles, and this is what I'm running on. First of all, I think we need to ease traffic in our ward. We need to add recreational green space. And finally, for the city as a whole, we need to focus on responsible economics. As an accountant, I feel like I'm the right person to move forward with those initiatives.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. White. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Bruce. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Jill Bruce, and I've been a long-time resident of Ward 4. My husband and I are raising our family there. My retired parents also live in Ward 4. I've been an advocate for the residents of my community and have been their voice on a number of issues, including but not limited to road safety. I've also been actively involved in my school community for the past 6 years as a parent representative in the school. I am a new voice. The position of Ward 4 councillor for me is not about politics. It's about being a voice for the residents. I've always prided myself on being an individual who is genuine and approachable and who listens and who gets results. I don't have all the answers, but my commitment is that I will work hard to get the information needed in order to make informed decisions on council.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Bruce. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Kovich. You have 1 minute for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Ward 4 needs a fresh voice on City Council, yet shouldn't have to sacrifice experience in that person. With 30-year career history, I have the experience to tackle the hard issues, yet I have no ties to current or past councils or their decisions. Being confident is an attribute that the next councillor is going to need. The ability to work with existing council members while holding one's own is going to be key to representing the residents who put their trust in us. The opportunity to bring a new and fresh approach with the knowledge and depth of my experience makes me the ideal candidate. My experience as a realtor has given me insight not only into what it takes to represent someone's best interests, but also into how you live and what affects the enjoyment of your home. City Council decisions affect you right where you live.
And thanks very much, Ms. Kovich, for your opening remarks. Now we're going to hear from Ms. Hanlon. You have 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Debbie Hanlon, and I'm proud to be your Ward 4 candidate. I have over 30 years business experience. I pride myself on my keen negotiation skills. I'm also a past councillor of Ward 4 for over 6 years, and we got so much done when we worked together. And I'm looking forward to coming back and bringing back my energy and enthusiasm and working with the people of Ward 4 to get even more done. There's many things I could say about myself. As I said, I'm a businesswoman. I'm a past Ward 4 councillor. I'm a children's author. I'm the creator of the I'm No Bully show. I am an advocate for seniors. I've been a long-term volunteer. My friends say I've been on more boards than paint. I bring all that to Ward 4. I enjoy the people. I raise my family in this beautiful city. I love my city, and I would love the opportunity to work with the people of Ward 4 once again. Thank you.
And thanks very much, Ms. Hanlon, and to all of the candidates for your opening remarks. We are going to start now with our series of questions. As you know, we have 5. Our first question is going to, first we're going to go to Ms. O'Leary. St. John's councillors gathered for a closed-door meeting at City Hall this past Sunday. Mayor Dennis O'Keefe said everything was on the table. The issues included interpersonal relationships, trust, and difficulties they have working together. Although not all issues were resolved, council plans to move forward in a unified team. Given what you have seen from council as of late, what would you offer as a new member of the team that would help regain trust and respect of the people of St. John's? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Erin. Respect for the constituents, the residents of the public, and also the business owners is number 1. As an experienced councillor, I've actually been party to many of the experiences that have gone on in the council chambers. And I have to say, I was really disheartened when I discovered that the Clyde Wells report had to be leaked out. One that all of the public actually paid for and was finished in September, and it had to be leaked out. This is all about privacy and conflict of interest issues at the City of St. John's, which we've seen over and over again for many, many, many years. I do believe that we have to work together as a City Council, but there's always going to be differences of opinion. That is the nature of politics. It's really important that you have a representative who is there to stand on your behalf as a Ward 4 candidate and to speak up even at times when everybody else is singing from the same page book. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Leary. And now it's a chance for the rest of the candidates to rebuttal. So we're going to start with Mr. White, and you have 1 minute.
I do agree that you know, it is important to get someone in there to try and drive change here. One of my biggest values is certainly transparency and openness to government. And right now, that's something that I feel is lacking. And certainly, it's time to go in there and really kind of rip the Band-Aid off and get things done. I would like to see some sort of a resolution made public to everyone. I did see that the most recent council meeting only lasted about 5 minutes, and there didn't seem to be a whole lot of things tabled until at the end. So I would like to bring more transparency and openness into City Council and move forward for the taxpayers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruce. And or Mr. White, we're now going to hear from Ms. Bruce. Ms. Bruce, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I guess, what I've been preaching all along is that I'm a new voice, and I guess the main thing is I have never served on City Council before. I don't have any past relationships with the councillors who are currently sitting on council, and I don't have any preconceived personal opinions on the councillors as well. I'm going into this, as I said, as a new voice. I've always prided myself on the ability to work well with other people and gain the respect of those who I've worked with. This position will be no different for me. I also feel I have the ability to gain the respect of them. I think when we work together, we get more done. Unfortunately, right now, what we're seeing is just there's a lot of behind-door deals, and I think we really, really have to advocate. I think the new councillor who gets in there has to be really big on advocating that we get this information and a lot more transparency.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bruce, for that. And now we're going to move on now to Ms. Kovich. You have 1 minute for your rebuttal.
Current city councillors seem to be struggling with what appears to be a lack of respect and hidden agendas among them. There's grandstanding and posturing, and it seems as though they've forgotten why they're there and who put them there. A seat on council should not be a political springboard. If you've asked the residents to vote for you, then you should have the respect to fulfill your duties with loyalty to them and not be waiting for the next chance to introduce your own personal agenda. I believe that council needs to get back to basics. Be clear in your communication with residents and each other and act like the leaders that you are. Furthermore, knowledge is power. The onus is on each councillor to work effectively with each other to find solutions collectively to represent the city with as much depth and knowledge as possible. Personality conflicts need to be checked at the door. Remember who it is that put us in those seats. Thank you.
And thanks very much, Ms. Kovich. And now we're going to head over to Ms. Hanlon. You have now 1 minute.
Well, it should be no surprise to the people of St. John's, especially Ward 4, that I called for a complete review of council in 2009 and was met with nothing but discouragement, and I was the lone person that voted for it. I wanted to have a complete review of budgetary processes as well as council as an individual unit, because I felt it was dysfunctional back then. Now, I do have respect for the people around the table. I know how hard they work, and I do realize that they are under extreme pressure. But at the end of the day, the people we serve are the people of the people of St. John's in particular, the people of Ward 4. They're the people that are losing by the council having this closed door approach. So I would bring, of course, more meetings. When I was a ward councillor before, I regularly held ward meetings in my ward. It was about transparency, it's about bringing it out. I hired buses and brought people in so they could see what happened in council. I'm all about openness and transparency, and I'll bring it back again.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Hanlon. And now this is a time where you have 2 minutes. This is an open discussion, open debate. I do ask that, of course, you don't step over each other, so it's clear for the viewers at home. So the 2 minutes starts now.
I think it's very important to note that the public has lost confidence in this particular city council. So we need to gain the trust and confidence back of the public. And I think that, again, transparency and accountability is huge in this issue. The business owners and the residents have been taxed exponentially with this budget, and it is really unfair, and we have to start there.
It seems like there's a lot going on in the city, and we only see the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's a lot more behind the scenes as well, and I think that to bring that forward is what the public wants. You're talking about the business people and the rate of taxation. I think that's horrendous. I think that the way the budget was brought forward was wrong, that they could have been more detailed with it. Again, most people are reasonable. And if you explain two things to them, they'll understand. My stance is truth in taxation. If people know the truth, they wouldn't have a problem with their taxation. And also, I believe that taxation should be revenue neutral and not hid behind mill rates up and down smidgens. I believe that taxation should be revenue neutral so we can properly do our budgets at home just like the city does their budget. And revenue neutral is key to this going forward for taxation.
We'd like to take some time for the other councillors the candidates to have a say.
Well, for myself, I really think that one of the problems with what's going on in council right now is that they've lost perspective. I think that everybody has kind of been taken away from working together because they're so divided over this budget. And I think they need to get back to basics.
I think it's much like, you know, it's not just the city right now that's suffering tough times. We see the province suffering tough times. We see, you know, the country. I think when the residents are losing faith in their leaders, that's when we have a huge issue. The budget was one thing, the loss of respect and faith is the other thing.
Okay, we've run out of time. Our 2 minutes is up. We'll have that chance again at the end of the question 2. So now I am going to move on to question 2, which will be directed at Mr. White. So, Mr. White, over the past few months, there has been an outcry from both the arts community and business community regarding Budget 2016. Now, the St. John's Arts grants were to be cut by 50%. The city reversed the cuts. However, the business community continues to be enraged due to the property taxes. What would your approach be to ensure the many facets of the St. John's community are supported at a time of economic instability which demands fiscal responsibility?
Well, my biggest idea right now in how to support everyone in this sort of an economic environment is to bring transparency and openness, as I mentioned before. My biggest initiative right now is to bring in an independent auditor general type position for the city. That would at least give everyone assurance that we are getting value for our tax dollars. Because as it stands right now, there really isn't much clarity in that we're getting as much as we can out of the money that's coming in. One of the other things that has gone on here certainly is, you know, we've seen certain populations be supported in reversing some of the budgetary issues, but then other areas haven't. So that also needs to be addressed. Everyone needs to be treated fairly.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. White. And now we're going to head on over to Ms. Bruce. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I think the reality is right now that the fiscal situation, as I said before, is not only in St. John's, it's the province and the country as a whole. We're having to make incredibly difficult decisions, and it's not going to be without any controversy. However, you know, and I think the other side of it is municipal governments are also in another very unique situation that they can't carry a deficit, so they have to make their budgets balance. When we talk about the budget from 2016, 2018, obviously it was flawed. The lack of public engagement, the lack of transparency, just the timing of the release of the budget itself. I've heard at so many doors, people have said, you know, the budget was released just before Christmas. I got my property assessment the week before Christmas. How could we even deal with this? We haven't had enough time to even process it. So I think there's just so many issues. Hopefully we'll learn and move forward.
Thank you, Ms. Bruce, for your comments. We're going to head over now to Ms. Kovich. You have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. The budget needs to be reviewed in the short term. The fact that it was passed after only a 90-minute meeting by review of council is unimaginable to me. I spend that much time going over a P&L every month for my office. 6 months of preparation minimum is needed in order to prepare the budget statement. The fiscal reviews that council recently announced are a start, but tax increases need to be revisited and efficiencies need to be found. 2016 budget served a very great purpose: to unite the entire city to rise up in protest. So many individuals and groups have spoken out against this budget that it would be heartwarming if it wasn't so gut-wrenching. One by one, special interest groups have spoken up because within every few days, something new comes out. This needs to be reviewed and it needs to be revisited. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kovich. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Hanlon. You have 1 minute.
The budget is certainly a challenging budget, and I think a lot of the problems was how it was presented to the people. I think the City of St. John's has a spending problem, and we need to look within our city to see where we can save. If your roof went on your house tomorrow, you wouldn't call up your boss and say, I need $10,000 to put a new roof on my house. You would look within your budget to see where you could save that $10,000 so you could do your roof. I don't believe the city looked within its own house to see where it could cut enough to, instead of having to put the expense back onto the backs of the taxpayer, which is you and I, the people of Ward 4 and the people of St. John's. I believe that the city should have looked more in detail into its operational budgets to see where they could have cut The city is about to face the most challenging economic times we are about to face. This is the first time in Newfoundland this is going to happen. We need to tighten our belt. Fiscal responsibility is required.
We have to leave it there. Your minute is up. Thank you very much, Ms. Hanlon, for your comments. And now we're going to hear from Ms. O'Leary. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. I believe that this controversial budget fiasco could have been avoided. The fashion in which the council has engaged citizens only to be disregarded is absolutely outrageous and unacceptable. In such tough economic times, hitting residents and businesses while they're already financially vulnerable, completely unsound fiscal management. The flip-flopping to cuts for arts and community services as the budget rolled out, the lack of transparency that still exists regarding line items in the budget, all indicate a council that is completely out of touch with the public. Why has the budget increased exponentially, still with significant cuts to service? This after stating less than a year ago that the city was in sound financial status. I strongly believe that an external audit is necessary. I've spoken to personally, and as well I have written to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Mr. Eddie Joyce, to speak to him about how this oversight can be remedied. Revisiting this budget is absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. O'Leary. And now that we have a chance now for 2 minutes again, this is your time to discuss this issue, and we'll start the 2 minutes right now.
In 2009, sorry?
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just feel that this whole budget process certainly is a reactionary approach to the city trying to manage its house at the end of a bad couple of years or a bad few years. You know, there's two things that you can do to try and balance the budget. You can either increase revenues or you can decrease expenses. Instead of the city diversifying revenues over the past little while, and instead of cutting expenses, the city had to take the approach to raise taxes. There was no other solution. Had the city gone back 3-4 years and looked at initiatives to reduce expenses and, you know, to diversify revenues when the economy was great, then we wouldn't be in the mess we're in today.
Well, we do need to look inside the walls of City Council, certainly, to see where we can do cost savings there, because putting the weight completely on the businesses and the residents is unfair and unequal. I mean, the weight alone cannot be thrust upon residents, and we have never seen such a time where the St. John's Board of Trade and all of the independent business owners and associations have come together in such force. It is really time for the City Council to wake up.
And it's good to see it, actually. It's good to see the people come together. But you know what bothers me a lot about it is one of the candidates talked about earlier was the fact that you get your assessment one week, and then you get your the budget comes down the following week. You don't realize how much your taxes are gone up till you get a bill in the mail, and you get that usually the week after Christmas. So you get your bill. I have heard from residents, and they're very upset with the process that it comes out. We need to put ourselves back in the shoes of the people we're representing and make it simple so they understand the tax bill. And again, truth in taxation.
With all due respect to the former councillors that are here, this is not a brand new problem. The problem financially within this city is systemic.
Okay, that is the 2 minutes that we have that time there. We're going to have to close that off. We are going to move on to the third question, and this will be directed first to Ms. Bruce. St. John's Council currently includes 10 members. We have the mayor, the deputy mayor, and 8 councillors, 4 which represent wards throughout the city and 4 that are elected at large. What will be your main priority if elected within Ward 4?
Thank you. Well, as a resident of Ward 4, and after knocking on more doors than I have care to count, I'm acutely aware of the issues that are facing the residents of Ward 4 right now. The most common issues I hear when I'm knocking on doors, and I guess the ones that affect me and my family the most as being residents, is they circle around road safety, lack of planning, and clean and safe neighborhoods. When we go back to road safety, all we have to do is drive any day at all, come up into our community of Airport Heights during 8:30 school drop-off time. We have drivers who are distracted, we have speed issues, and that's not unique to our community. That's the same with Kenmount Terrace, down around Churchill Square, Kenmount Road. When we talk about planning, there's a lack of planning when it comes to areas such as Kenmount Terrace. We've got houses went in, there was no planning for parks or green spaces. And when clean neighborhoods, if we could just get the city to start enforcing their bylaws when it comes to garbage, I know in our area, the rodents would be
Okay, we have to leave it there. Your minute is up. We thank you very much, Ms. Bruce, for your comments, and Ms. Kovic, you now have 1 minute.
One of the biggest things that I think Ward 4 needs is a resourceful councillor, someone who's innovative and has fresh ideas and is willing to think outside of the box in order to get the job done that needs to be done. We have a real big problem in Ward 4 with enforcement. There's problems with traffic enforcement, parking enforcement, garbage enforcement, snow clearing bylaw enforcement. There was a problem as well in Airport Heights. A few residents have mentioned rodent infestation. So there was a problem with the bylaw enforcement for the new structures that were put up there. And there are so many ways that we could not only enforce these things, but we can get revenue from them. There are people who are parked up on streets that could be ticketed, and we could get more and more revenue from them. But enforcement is a really big deal up there, and we need to look into it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kovic, for your comments. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Hanlon. You have 1 minute.
Well, knocking on the doors, I certainly heard a lot, and actually being the past councillor for 6 years in Ward 4, I know a lot of the issues that are there. The traffic calming is a large one. There's huge problems with our road safety for sure. The rodents, there's a problem with rodents. There's a problem with we're building subdivisions, and we should be building neighbourhoods. Proper planning. I'm a long-term planner. I worked, when I was a councillor, I worked as the chair. I was the chair of the Economic Strategic Roadmap, which is a 20-year plan for the city. And in that, it talked about developing neighbourhoods and how we could make them more livable and walkable and enjoyable for people to stay and live and stay in their neighbourhoods. Ward 4 deserves attention in those areas. Another thing at the doors was, of course, the tax problem, and of course we have to deal with that as well. So dealing with the people of Ward 4, I'm here. We did a lot together before, and we'll get a lot more done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hanlon. And now we're going to hear from Ms. O'Leary. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. And as the other candidates certainly have itemized, there seem to be three main issues going on in Ward 4. Kenmount Terrace, the lack of planning, which I, as a former city councillor at large, I was very proactive in speaking out about the lack of planning process that ensued in Kenmount Terrace. The residents deserve so much more. There's not a tree in sight. The traffic planning was built in such a way so that cars speed at unbelievable speeds in areas where there's small children and families. It's really relatively unsafe. Airport Heights, same thing. There's traffic concerns as been itemized and such in terms of the Roncalli School area, and those things need to be addressed, and there are ways to address that, and I have worked on those kind of issues before. But the final issue certainly is Churchill Square, and I have been hearing from residents in the Churchill Square area how disgusted they are that there has been no attention paid to the revitalization. The Loblaws supermarket issue is a very contentious issue.
Okay, we have to leave it there. Your minute is up. Thank you very much, Ms. O'Leary. Now we're going to head on over to Mr. White. You have 1 minute.
Well, as a resident of Ward 4, I do recognize the same concerns that everyone has brought forward here tonight. You know, road safety in terms of traffic calming is very important to our community to make it safer and even make it more enjoyable for everyone to get out and enjoy themselves in the ward. One of the other things, as mentioned, is recreational green space. Currently today, in order for me to enjoy time with my family, we need to get in the car and drive into one of the other wards to actually go and experience some green space or some recreational facilities. So my big thing is around community planning. I'm a strategic decision maker. I've been involved in that ever since, about 10 years or so ago as a CPA. So I do believe in doing more for everyone here in the ward.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. White. And now this is the time where you have 2 minutes to talk and debate amongst yourselves. So we're going to start that time right now.
Just to go back to the Airport Heights, the neighborhood where I live. When it comes to the road safety and the school safety, I've been such a advocate for this safety in school zones. We've got a neighborhood school in the center of our community. We have over 400 children, and only about maybe 300 of them are actually walking to school every day. I've got radar signs that have been implemented now through advocation with the city. We have the RNC presence. We just need to do more of this, and I think we just can't wait for it to happen. We have to be very, very strong.
Well, the Clean and Beautiful Committee, which has now become Clean St. John's, is I was council chair of that particular committee, very proactive on cleanliness issues, certainly in the city. Neighbourhood Watch was a program that I actually took the initiative to ensure was implemented at the City of St. John's during my term as a councillor at large. And there are many other issues as well, like Pippi Park and the Grand Concourse, which we have not discussed here this evening. Very important issues that we retain and preserve those particular green spaces.
Okay, we have a minute left.
With all due respect to the Roncalli and Airport Heights traffic issue in front of the school, there's also another school that's having a problem with traffic, and that's Rennie's River Elementary School. And I've had constituents who live there come to me and say they're scared to bring their children across the crosswalk. So there's another place that really needs enforcement and traffic calming.
And working with the council, sorry, Matt, and as a former councillor, I was the council that made sure that crossing guards stayed on the budget. I was the only councillor that fought for it and maintained it. I worked with our mayor at the time. And as past chair of Clean and Beautiful, actually Ward 4 won the Councillors' Challenge the year that we were there.
Okay, we'll let Mr. White have a couple of seconds here before we wrap up.
So just one final point. We do rely heavily on the RNC in this city, and I believe we need a municipal enforcement unit that can certainly work to enforce traffic on top of the RNC.
Okay, that is our 2 minutes for that. We are going to move on to question 4, and this question will be directed first to Ms. Kovich. One of you will be walking into council midterm, along with fostering cooperation with your counterparts. How do you think regional cooperation within neighboring municipalities could help in this economic climate? What would you like to see and why?
We're going to need a spirit of cooperation on many levels, regionally with regard to provincial government, federal government, and among the councillors themselves. There's no doubt about that. Neighboring communities, in my mind, could avail of certain services that the city can help them provide or help provide to them, such as Metrobus routes to Torbay and Paradise. I think they should be enhanced. That'll enhance the livability for the people in those towns. You know, there's drinking water, wastewater management, fire and emergency services, regional sports and rec services. It's very important for us to work with the other municipalities and to try and have a spirit of cooperation among all of us.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Kovich, for your answer there. We're going to head on over now to Ms. Hanlon. You now have 1 minute.
I believe regional cooperation can help us in all levels, both fiscally as well as improve services to people. There's many regional areas we could, I believe that we could all cross over into. Metrobus, we do it in some areas, but we can involve others. Firefighting, animal control, sports facilities, heritage, environment. There's lots of overlap between the different levels of government. As chair of the Strategic Economic Roadmap, the 20-year plan, we did bring in all levels of government. We know that St. John's is not living in a bubble by itself, so we brought in the federal and the provincial government and worked on that board with me. There were members from each level of government. As well, we held meetings with all the surrounding municipalities, and we came together with a plan that could help further the people of St. John's, but also help the province as a whole. And if you read the plan, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It is online, the Strategic Economic Roadmap 2021. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hanlon. And now we're going to hear from Ms. O'Leary. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, partnerships are key. And certainly from my previous experience on City Council with regional development with municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador was very key. I was very proactively involved with that particular organization. Regional waste management, and also the Stewardship Association of Municipalities. There are a number of different organizations, but the bottom line is this adversarial us and them kind of attitude really has to stop in order to work, because there are best practices in other communities and we can learn from each other and grow, and partnerships will work. It will be more advantageous. We have a history of a very adversarial kind of relationship, certainly with some of our partnering communities, and that kind of attitude has to stop. We really only gain by working together in partnerships, whether or not it's within the city or with our partners outside of the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Leary. And now we're going to hear from Mr. White. You have 1 minute.
Well, as Ms. O'Leary mentioned here, you know, there have been barriers set up between the municipalities from St. John's and around St. John's. What I see here, there's also been talk of physical barriers to be placed as well, and to me that's just, it's not helping in the current economic environment. As a resident of Ward 4, I actually avail of services in Mount Pearl, I avail of services in Paradise, I avail of services in Torbay. So of course, I do see the value in everyone working together, be it on pooling resources for snow clearing, resources for traffic and construction, and resources for fire safety. It's all very important, and I think we all need to work together and have a better relationship with everyone around us.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. White. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Bruce. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Regional cooperation is a great way for municipalities to work together to share costs on projects. We have some great ones already that exist, but are there other opportunities that we could look at? I'm sure there are. One may be coordinating the development of roads and planning of subdivisions. If a city has efficient traffic flow, we need to ensure that we partner with the other municipalities to reduce traffic congestion. Amalgamation is often mentioned when it comes to regional coordination, but it doesn't have to be. A strong working relationship with the surrounding communities and a common goal of reducing costs may be the solution. And if elected, I would work to strengthen these relationships for the betterment of all parties involved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Bruce. And now this is, again, a time. You have 2 minutes for open dialogue, and we'll start that time right now.
Well, for almost 25 years, every area of my volunteer and employment history has been in creative, strategic communications and marketing, involving concept development, organization advocacy, and management of projects and staff. I worked as a hands-on motivator with a positive approach, and I really believe that partnerships is the way to go in order to succeed.
With regard to regionalization, I know that municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, have been, I think, looking into creating a regional kind of level of government. That's something that I would be interested in finding out more about, just to see if there's some way that we could all work together and have that extra level of service.
I actually worked for 2 years on that report with M&L. I was the city rep for a couple of years, and we went throughout the province and held meetings, and it was a very common sense approach. And if anyone knows anything about me, Debbie Hanlon, I take a common sense approach to most things. I do believe that there is a way that we can work with partnerships to make it better for all of us. And as I said earlier, we don't live in a bubble. We have to rely on each other for services, and there's no reason why we can't work with all levels of government.
I think we need to expand our horizons a little bit too. I think we need to look at other cities and see what they're doing. We're a very unique city. However, other municipalities are doing this. This is not the first time that a city has partnered with other municipalities to make this work. We need to look at other places that are doing it, and if they're doing it right, maybe follow their examples. There's a wide array of resources that we could avail of, and we just need to take advantage of that, I think.
Yeah, just having those barriers up is certainly driving the expenses right now. It's not making it any better on anyone. So let's certainly move forward and try and save some money where we can.
Okay, and that concludes our 2 minutes for that portion. We are going to move on now to question 5, and this will be first directed at Ms. Hanlon. And Ms. Hanlon, a new Liberal government was elected under the leadership of Dwight Ball. When looking at St. John's, the strategic plan, what are your expectations from government as the city looks for intergovernmental cooperation to advancing collective interests, such as funding for capital works and money to complete the Team Gougeot highway construction? You have 1 minute.
Well, the first thing that I would want from our new Liberal government is I would like for them to appoint an independent auditor to oversee the financial runnings of our city. We're over a $300 million budget. It's no different than any other level of government. It's something that I've been advocating for since 2009, and I will continue to advocate for. I do believe there's more of a flavor there now than there's ever been, and it is time that we had an independent auditor. It just makes common sense. I would like to see a better relationship with the provincial government when it comes to paying their taxes, because right now the provincial government does not pay taxes on its buildings, it does not pay for permits. Case in point, the 2 Johnson's buildings, both in our ward on Elizabeth Avenue and Portugal Cove Road, those buildings were sold and now they become government buildings. We lost that tax base. When the Memorial University took over the Battery, we lost that tax base. We are talking millions of dollars that we're losing in tax base, and I do believe that we need to improve that. And there's much more I couldn't say, but I'm out of time.
Okay, yes indeed. Well, your 1 minute is up, and thanks very much, Ms. Hanlon, for that. And now we're going to head on over to Ms. O'Leary. You have 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, again, the adversarial attitude has to go in order to work together with the government, the provincial government, in terms of some sort of synergy. Again, there are issues that obviously have been itemized about issues where we're not receiving tax base from provincial government buildings. But I would like to look at the positive side of things that we can do to partner together with them. Memorial University is a Class A university that we can do all kinds of partnership projects with over time. There's a welcoming event in Montreal where we could actually invite and celebrate multicultural community. These are people who come here, who work, and we would like to retain them in our culture, and we can partner with the university in efforts such as that. There are so many areas. The conservation and the preservation of Pippi Park, Grand Concourse, these are all areas where we can partner with the provincial government and their subsidiary bodies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. O'Leary. Now we're going to head on over to Mr. White. And Mr. White, you have 1 minute.
Well, again, I'll go back to expense reduction. I think that cooperation is key, whether we're talking about regionalization of services or working with the provincial government and federal government to certainly add services where we can to the people who need them most here in the city. I look at the relationship with the provincial government much the same as I see with the surrounding municipalities, and I think it's really got to stop. It's getting old. We just need to work together and make St. John's a better place to live for all of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. And now we're going to head over to Ms. Bruce, and you have 1 minute to rebuttal.
Thank you. As mentioned before, I mean, we're into a time now where we have a new government. We should take this opportunity to develop a good working relationship. Again, we have to work together on this. We're all in this together. And that's with all levels of government, because cooperation yields better results than confrontation, as we're seeing right now. That's not to say that we have to take whatever the government says as gospel and toe the line. Rather, if approached correctly, all stakeholders should be able to voice their concerns as valued contributors. This is what great relationships can offer. One area of improvement I see is the area of provincial and municipal relations when it applies to the provincial governments buildings that are left vacant, and I know Ms. Hanlon has already touched on that. We have to, we're talking about accountability on a municipal level. There's also accountability on a much higher level, and that's a provincial level. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bruce. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Kovich. You have 1 minute for your rebuttal.
We definitely need provincial and federal government cooperation. There's no doubt about that. We find ourselves in uncharted territory with regard to finances. One of the things that I've noticed is you can't just pop up in the news and say that you're going to, push off onto the provincial government, the Team Gouju Highway or the Pippi Park trails. These are things that you have to talk about with the parties involved. You need to have consultation with the ministers and the staff of the provincial government. To just come out in the news and say, oh, we're going to rescind our agreement on this, or we're going to cut this out of the budget. I mean, really, what should have happened was the meetings should have happened first. You can't blindside government like that and expect them to be cooperative with you. So I think we really need to foster that working relationship with them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kovich, for your answer there. We now are in the moment where we have 2 minutes. So that 2 minutes, of course, is your time to open dialogue between you all. So that 2 minutes can start right now.
So when we talk about things like taxing the provincial government on their buildings, I don't necessarily agree with that approach, because at the end of the day, the citizens of St. John's are still going to end up paying for a fifth of those buildings. So, either way, we're still taxing our citizens, whether we're taxing them at the front line at the municipal level, or we're taxing them at the provincial level.
Well, I look at it as an added incentive to the city of St. John's, because we did lose a great tax base when we lost a couple of our large buildings. And we have good relationships with our our provincial government, and I'd like to continue them. It's not an issue of not a good relationship. I just think that they need to come in and actually be part of the process, not just come in at the end, but come in and say, look, we need this, and this is why we need it. We lost these buildings. Look what this done to us. I mean, it was a significant amount of tax base gone.
I think that jurisdictional rule certainly is a big issue as well. In my time on council before, I have countless times have been told it's not our business, it's not our jurisdiction, and I don't agree with that. I believe very strongly in partnering, whether or not it be the cosmetic pesticide ban that went provincial. That started at City Council and with cities, and that was an initiative that actually saw a successful fate. Test Your Place is another example of building together communities and partnering together, and I think that adage really gets results in a neighborhood.
One of the things that we need to really be aware of is the fact that we have a bunch of brand new politicians in the provincial government right now. They're going to rely heavily on their staff, and we need to do everything we can to bring them up to speed.
Okay. All right, and that concludes our 2 minutes for that part. We are that is it actually for our question and debate portion of the evening. We're going to move right now into the closing statements, and just to let everyone know, once again, we will be going in the reverse order of the opening statements. So we are going to start with Ms. Hanlon, and everybody will have 1 minute allotted to their closing statement. So we'll start with you right now.
Thank you. Again, I'm respectfully asking for your support to put those ballots in the mail and to mark that X by Debbie Hanlon. I've worked with you before. I'm looking forward to working with you again. Together we can get things done. I take a long-term, systematic approach. Every decision I make, I take very seriously, and I also take into consideration how those decisions will impact the lives of the people that I'm representing. I'm approachable. I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm always available. I'm here to work for you. When I was your councillor before, we had no problems. I held monthly ward meetings in different parts of my ward each month. Transparency was never a problem. I hired buses and brought people into City Hall. People would call and ask about questions about meetings. I would invite them to the meetings because you can actually come to the meetings. And I advocated strongly for no more closed doors meetings. I don't think they're needed, and I'm here to work for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hanlon. And now we're going to move to Ms. Kovich. You have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to run in this election. As an executive assistant and a constituency assistant and a realtor over my career, I'm used to advocating for people and helping people, and it's something that is at the heart of who I am. The one thing I really want to say is that I want to encourage all the women, all the little girls, anybody who has a dream to get into politics or try to promote yourself in some way, do it. Get out of your comfort zone, do what you need to do, find the people who will help you. If I'm lucky enough to be the voice for Ward 4, my door is always open. And even if I'm not lucky enough to be the voice for you, I want to be able to mentor anybody who wants to run in 2017. Call me up. I'll help walk you through the process. Anything I can do to help you to be a better you, I'm all for it. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you, Ms. Kovich. And now we're going to head over to Ms. Bruce. You have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Thank you. As I first stated in my introduction, I would be a new voice on council. I just want to be the voice that the residents can come to with their issues, and I work very hard to get the answers that they require. I'm not a politician, but rather a mother, a wife, and a daughter who feels very strongly that I can make a difference in our communities in Ward 4. I want to work with the current council to find solutions that affect us all, and we'll work diligently to get all the information available in order to make informed decisions before I make them. On February 23rd, I will be humbled to be elected as your new councillor on Ward 4. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bruce. And now we're going to hear from Mr. White. Mr. White, you have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
A vote for Matt White is simply a vote for change. I'm here to represent the people, not only of Ward 4, but the people of St. John's. As I mentioned before, I'm interested in traffic calming, road safety, and financial transparency and openness. let's open the doors back open on council. And you can certainly come to me with any issues that you would like to see resolved in this city today. Please support me on February 23rd.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. And now we're going to hear from Ms. O'Leary. You have 1 minute for your closing remarks.
Thank you. Well, the reality is I live and love public service. I have volunteered both in the community on numerous boards and committees throughout the entire city. In 2009, I became a city councillor with the highest number of votes. And the reason why, I believe, is because I have a very diverse background, and I'm passionate, and I'm very proactive and responsive. I'm a very experienced person, I'm very committed, and I've proven my worth as a constituency person. But I also have a much larger visioning capacity, and I think that one of the most important things is not to just talk the talk, but to walk the walk. I'm not a quitter. I'm somebody who sees your interests right to the bitter end, and I'm very, very excited to represent you, and I kindly ask for your support for the Ward 4 seat in St. John's. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Leary, and I'd like to thank all of the candidates for your closing remarks. And that now marks the end of our debate here with the 5 candidates vying for the Ward 4 seat within the City of St. John's. I'd like to thank all of the candidates, of course, for participating this evening in our Rogers TV studio. And a special thanks to our technical and volunteer crew for helping us produce this for all of you tonight. And a reminder for those of you watching who live in Ward 4, the final voting day is February 23rd. If you didn't mail in your ballot, voting does take place up until 8 p.m. that day at St. David's Presbyterian Church Hall, which is located at 98 Elizabeth Avenue. Now, the city says that the elected results will be released at City Hall and on the city's website after 8 p.m. on February 23rd. For more information, you can visit stjohns.ca. And if you'd like to see this again, it lives on our YouTube page. Visit Rogers TV. Well, make sure you stay tuned to Channel 9 as there's lots of great community programming coming up. I'm Erin Sully. Thanks for tuning in to the local campaign here on Rogers TV. Have a great evening. Good night.